Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Hello, and thank you for coming back to listen to another episode of the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. A lot of people look at physicians as being rich with deep pockets. And physicians in the United States do make a lot more than the average American. According to Medscape, the average physician in the United States earns $339,000 a year in 2022, with the average PCP income at $260,000 and the average for specialists at $368,000. Most U.S. physicians earn in the top 10% of salaries in the United States, which for 2020 was $173,176. In comparison, the median household income for the United States in 2020 was $71,186, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. In terms of annual income, physicians are rich. Maybe you're a physician and you don't think yourself as rich, but there are a lot of people who look at you and think that you are rich, or look at physicians and think all of us are rich. After all, physicians do make six-figure incomes, which is what a lot of people strive for as what they think of as being rich. Some people are in families where earning a six-figure income is normal, where other people come from families where no one earns six figures. There are a lot of physicians who are the first physician in their family. I'm the first physician in my mom's side of the family. While two of my cousins married physicians, none of my aunts, uncles, or cousins on my mother's side of the family were a physician, and she's one of 7 children. On my dad's side, I have one cousin who's a physician, but that's really it. And my dad is one of 11. When you're a physician and other people perceive you as rich, you may find that people ask you for money or expect you to pay for them. This may be members of your family, childhood friends, or even complete strangers. The time around the holidays tends to be a time where people get together and where you may find yourself needing to set up some financial boundaries. So in today's episode, I'd like to talk more about financial boundaries. But before we get into financial boundaries, let's talk about what a boundary is in the first place. Prentice Hemphill described boundaries beautifully when she said, quote, "Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously," end quote. An emotional boundary delineates where one person ends and another person starts. Think of this like your own personal space. When someone violates a boundary you set for yourself, you communicate that in a way where you make a request asking the person to stop whatever they're doing that infringes on your boundary, and let them know the consequence or what you will do if they do not comply with your request. You only have control over your actions. You don't have control over anyone else's actions. Some boundaries don't need stating. People have a boundary that they're not going to want to be hit or assaulted. So you don't have to say, oh, if you hit me, I'm going to leave. But an easy example of a boundary is that if someone does start yelling at you, then you may say, I appreciate if you could lower your voice or stop yelling. And if you can't speak in a calm manner, then I'm leaving. If the person does not stop yelling, then you leave. Another boundary may be, please don't call past 10 p.m. I won't pick up the phone after 10 p.m. And if someone calls you after 10 p.m., then you need to enforce the boundary by not picking up the phone. A financial boundary are limits you set to protect your money. You may even set a boundary to protect your money from yourself. I'm Chinese American. I was born in the United States, but both my parents were born in China and immigrated to the United States when they were on the younger side. My dad at age 16 and my mom at age 21. In my family's culture, when we go out to eat, there's usually one person who pays the bill. We don't typically split the bill. This is true when we go out to eat with my extended family or when my parents go out with their Chinese friends. People will go out of their way to be sneaky so that they can be the one to pay for the bill. An example might be going to the bathroom so that they pay for the check before the end of the meal. I remember a conversation that my mom and I had when I was still in medical school. My mom actually explicitly said to me that because I'm the oldest, that when I'm with my siblings, I need to be the one to pay. That was when both my younger sister and my younger brother were working and making pretty good income. She really stressed this point, and she said that if I needed money to be able to pay, then I could ask her for it. At this point, I felt like I was an adult and I could cover my own expenses and bills. And yes, I appreciated my mom's offer to pay, but the American part of me said, Well, we can still share the bill, split the bill, or we can trade off paying for each other. But my mom was making it very explicit that in our culture, as the oldest, I should be the one to pay. I'm bringing this up because I understand there are all sorts of family and cultural dynamics that can play a role when it comes to money. The key with the financial boundary is you set the boundary that you want to set and that you like the reasons for why you have set it. When you think about what boundaries to set, a good place to start is by setting boundaries that will prevent you from feeling like you are being taken advantage of. If your niece or nephew asks for money for college, or your sister asks for money to pay for your niece or nephew's college, you can decide how much you want to contribute, if anything at all. If you are feeling obligated to lend or give money, ask yourself why. Is it because it is family? Is it because it's a good cause? Is it because you're in a financial position where you could help? When you think about actually giving the money, does it feel good to you? If the answer is no, then you should probably say no. So why do we find ourselves saying yes when we want to say no? It's likely one of two things. The first is that we want to avoid a feeling. We don't want to feel uncomfortable or awkward or guilty about saying no. But remember, the discomfort is only temporary. It will go away. A feeling is just a sensation in your body. A feeling's not going to kill you. Even though some people do talk about dying from embarrassment, you can survive whatever feeling is going to come up. Once you realize you can survive any feeling, then you'll really be empowered to be able to do anything. The other reason we say yes when we want to say no is that we are thinking about what the other person will think of us. We don't want the other person to think we don't care about them, or think we're cheap, or think we're selfish. We don't want the other person to be upset, or we're afraid that the other person won't like us anymore. But what happens when we say yes, when we really want to say no? Well, instead of the other person being upset at us, we are just upset at ourselves, or we think we're cheap, or we think we're selfish. It's not cheap or selfish to not give away money to something that you don't want to. And remember, no is a full sentence. You don't have to give any additional explanations. If someone asks you for money, you can say yes, you can say no, or you can say, I'll think about it. When you're thinking about your boundaries, you're establishing what you will and will not do. You can make a request to a person that you're talking to, but they don't have to comply with the request. You may make the request, please don't ask to borrow money from me, and that person may still ask to borrow money. Depending on your family situation, you may want to be generous with your family. You may want to help them out. You may want to actually give them money. What determines if we feel generous or if we feel taken advantage of is our thoughts around the money we're giving, what the money is going towards, and potentially how much money it is. If your brother asks you for money to buy tickets to a basketball game, you may decide no. If your brother asks you for money to pay for a utility bill, you may decide yes. Neither is right or wrong. But if you realize that he could not pay his utility bill because he bought tickets to a basketball game, you may have a different thought about the money that you gave him for his utility bill. When it comes to giving money to anyone, including family, you do want to think about why you want to give it. And would you be upset if you found out other ways that that person was spending money? If you would be upset about other ways this person is spending money, understand that they can spend money however they want. And if you give them money, then they will spend that money you give them on whatever they want to do. So this brings up another point. If you do lend money, do it with the understanding that it may never get paid back. Some people actually set the financial boundary to never lend money. They either give some money or they don't. Decide if you want to set a similar boundary. Sometimes lending money between people can really cause more difficulties later when you expect to be paid back that money and the money never gets paid back. Remember, you can only control your actions. You can't control the actions of other people. If you are noticing negative feelings about being asked for money, notice what inner dialogue is going on in your mind. If you're thinking, what makes her think I should give her money? You're probably going to feel annoyed or resentful. If you change your thought to, of course she's asking for money again. She's always asking everyone for money. Then maybe you can laugh it off instead of feeling something more negative. If you feel a sense of obligation, then I also encourage you just to dig a little deeper. Is this obligation something you want to continue, or is it something that's eventually going to cause resentment? And if it's causing resentment, why is that? Is it because the person keeps asking you for money? Or that the person thinks it's okay to ask for money at all? Or is it what the person will spend the money on? Is it that the person, quote, wastes money in your eyes and is now asking you for money? Is it that they're buying things that you don't approve of or things that you don't even buy for yourself? When you set a financial boundary, you want to do it from a place of neutrality. You don't want to do it at a time that you're feeling angry or annoyed. You want to do it when you can just rationally think about what you want and what you don't want. And yes, there are consequences to saying no, but maybe it's a consequence you'd rather have than being out of the money and not having the money. Sometimes it may be having a conversation, communicating with the person that you love and support them, but that you also have to look out for your own financial health. Your family members may look at you as a rich physician and don't realize how much debt you have from the loans from your education or any other financial circumstances in your life or anything else about your financial situation. If that's something you do want to share with your family, you could say that. You could say, I love treating you. I want to be generous, but I do have a lot of education debt that I'm still working to pay off. So I'm choosing not to pay for dinner for everyone all the time. But you also don't have to explain. You could simply let people know what you will and will not pay for. So if it's become some kind of tradition that you always pay for the whole family whenever your extended family goes out to eat, you may let them know next time you talk about having dinner together, hey, this time I'm not going to be the one to pay for the bill. If everyone expects me to pay for the bill, then I'd rather not go. Honoring yourself and letting other people interpret what you say or do as they will can be difficult. By being honest and authentic, you actually can have a deeper and more intimate relationship with others. It's important to know what our boundaries are and then actually enforce it. In the beginning, enforcing your newly created boundaries will feel uncomfortable. There may be even times that you give in. Enforcing your boundaries is like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it will become. And the more you do it, the more you can act from a place where you're loving yourself and putting yourself first, which I know sometimes is hard for us as physicians, but that is also something we need to learn to do more. Thank you so much for listening. And if this episode is something that you think others need to hear, please share it with them. Happy holidays. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.